expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
Here I am, standing at the door, looking back at life as it's been before, holding on to things that might have been, knowing that this day will never come again, as my spirit's guiding me to a place where I am free to be all that I can be. Here I am, in stories that I know, feeling safe.
And welcome to Synchronicity and Your Life. My name is Jane McGuire, and my co-host is
Elena Risto.
There she got it! We're gonna break you in yet.
I know. I just if I I hear the music and I'm waiting to sing the song, and it just doesn't work like that.
Well, maybe one of these days you can sing it
never
live.
know.
No,
you never know. I did sing it live for some people last night.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. I was at that dinner last night.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And
that's right.
And the question was, what makes you special about what you do? And of course, it's obvious. What makes me different as a shamanic healer is I got all the singing and all the music and stuff, and so it was. And the woman who has the dinner she says, I always set her up, and she did. She goes, so you could sing, and that's what came up was to sing.
And this was at a restaurant.
Yeah, but it was in a closed room.
So the customers did not get to hear it.
No, the waiters did. They kept coming in and out, Yeah.
And it wasn't Happy Birthday that you sang. It was
It was Here I Am.
Here I Am. Great song. Great song. Yeah. And actually that leads into our part 2 topic today, Here I Am. Where are they after they die?
Right.
Where do they go?
For those of you that tuned in last week, we talked about, because we had so many air crash incidents in such a short time. And there was a lot of people affected by that.
Yes.
Many things. And we kind of got off into grief, which I'm sure we'll get off into again, because
it's part of it.
Being left behind, that's what we get to deal with. But what are they dealing with on the other side?
Right. So we will take phone calls. We're probably going to limit the time because we do have a lot of stuff to cover today. But if you do want to call in and share your experiences or ask a question, the number is 702-609-7626. And we both did separate research on this, and I went to the site Spirit, Science, and Metaphysics, I think
that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, and the doctor on there, he has done a study. And this isn't just a regular answer question type. This was like a 5-year study that he did of people that had had heart attacks or had been in a coma or had a near-death experience. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think this is what happens when, obviously a heart attack is a violent thing and people can suddenly die that way. But he reported that almost I think it was 98% said that they saw the light. They saw a deceased loved one, and they started to go through the tunnel of light, and they felt unconditional love. And in his report, he said it didn't even matter at that point if they were an atheist he said religion didn't matter.
Right.
And he goes on in his study, and it's a fascinating thing, to report that some of these people had said, yes, and I know I'm going to come back. And they weren't just talking about coming back for this life, but that they knew that when they crossed over, that they would actually reincarnate.
Right.
So his study supports reincarnation.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing about that is near-death experiences, since it's near-death, since they did come back, was that a situation that was set up for them to experience because Spirit knew they were coming back?
I think so, and I think the
too.
name of our show just answers that question.
Right.
I think nothing happens without reason or without cause. There's no such thing as coincidence. And so I definitely feel like this happened to people, and it's happened to a lot of people. And most of them do report, as this doctor said, I've talked to people that have had these NDEs, and they say, I feel wonderful.
Yeah. In fact, they all of the ones that I have worked with have said, I just didn't want to come back.
Right.
It's kind of like when they I take them to the World Tree, and they get inside the tree. Nobody wants to come back from that either.
Right. And so it's this feeling of peace and love.
Right. And support and
all those things. And he did report that there is a dimension on the other side where these people do say, yes, there is a place where you do some healing and you do see how your life impacted everybody else's life, from the smallest event to the biggest event. And that is something that I know in that actually happens in the shamanic world.
Yes.
And in my belief system, that happens also.
Right.
So they're just different names. But it does happen. So whatever you're holding against yourself when you die, it gets healed on the other side.
Now, I spoke to a woman this morning that was telling me that her mother had passed 7 years ago. And she always feels like she's still, we didn't talk about whether she had crossed over or whatever. She just said, I just feel her around. I feel it's like parts of her are just coming around. And so the next question is did she truly cross over? Is she, in my belief system, in the shamanic work that I do and the shamanic work that other shamanic healers do, that didn't come out right, did I?
I know.
That?
Other shamanic practitioners.
Yeah, that one right there.
That word.
That one. Is that shamanically what we are actually doing is going to that reality that they're in. We our physical bodies are still in the room, but our spirit is really going there. And people say, oh, I've done astral projection. That's different.
Right.
You astrally project. Your spirit's kind of floating around in this reality. But to go, and we might get some call-ins on this one, it's my belief that what happens is when you go to that other side, you have to be protected. You have to be, and so as we mentioned last week, shamanically, most of our training when we're working with, and initiation process, when we're working with spirits that have suddenly had a sudden death, or if we're working with somebody says, I just can't get them, there's a situation where there's some kind of, they feel like they're still attached to them. Our spirit is going there.
Yes.
But that's after a lot of training.
Right. That's not something somebody can say, oh, I took one class and now I can do this.
No.
Although that does happen, but that's another show.
That's another show.
And so I believe also that there are souls that do not successfully cross over.
Right.
And I know that I've worked with different people, and there's different belief systems about this, and maybe you can advise people. There are people that keep ashes of a loved one in their home. And from what I've seen, and I don't want to digress too much into another topic, it can actually open up some stuff that's not so healthy.
Yeah, it can. And again, it's the spirit attachment. It's that if you have an ongoing argument, let's say you and I are in a heated argument, and suddenly I go out.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
And I text while I'm driving, and all of a sudden I'm gone. If I don't understand that I'm gone, or if my spirit's still locked in that argument, and you're still locked in that argument, the hypothesis is shamanically is that you could keep people engaged.
Yes.
So that they're still here and they're not moving on. So in the case of a plane crash or a sudden death thing, we don't know until we get over there.
Yeah.
What's actually happening. Near death it seems to be that light. And I've talked to some people who had near death. They didn't have a near death experience.
Right. Right. Or actually in this study, he does talk to people that did, like you said, did not go over and see the light.
Right.
But they actually saw their bodies.
Right.
So they saw themselves. They had an out of body experience.
Yeah. People will say, "Oh, I was up in the corner of the room.
I was watching the doctors,
or whatever." Yeah.
Yeah, and that's different. An out of body experience is different from a near death experience. Let's just put that out there right now.
Right.
So, but yeah, some people have those. I guess that's the soul saying, "Hey, take a chance."
Well, and the thing is it's not like this is a defined science. This is
right. It's allegorical. It's all stories.
It's all stories. So you don't really know, but within the frame of our experience. Now, when you run into things when you're working in your practice,
yes,
Do you have the sense that you're there, or do you have the sense that your connection is helping whatever person you're with and angels are working through you?
That is a great question. I definitely feel that angels are working through me. And there are times when I've worked with clients and they've wanted to talk to a deceased loved ones, and my angels have folded their arms and said no. And so I've asked them, and I've said, why? And they said, well, we believe it's not in the best interest of this person to talk to the deceased loved one, or the energy is too heavy and I can't handle it, or something like that. And so what I do in that case is I ask the angel to be kind of a translator and to update me and tell me what's going on with that relative.
But you're still here.
I'm still physically here, but I'm hearing them.
Right.
And sometimes I can feel the energy presence in the room. And a lot of times through being a medium, I get told things, and people look at me all this, and they're, how did you know that? I'm a psychic. But I get told things that there's no way I would know. And so that's usually what I find doing the mediumship, is that there's usually some confirming information in the first 3 to 5 minutes. And again, if it's healthy for that person to come over and talk, the angels will allow it. But I always have my angels right there along with my higher beings.
Yeah.
Because it is, like you say, it's about protection. And you and I have done enough work with each other that, that I've had residue, you've had residue, and it can happen. But yeah, it's about bringing them here where you go there.
Right.
Yeah. But then I always make sure that they actually go too. I don't want them to linger.
You mean the spirit that you're working with? Yeah, I do the same thing. I adhere to the policy that if you came to me and you said, I have this issue and I feel like something's attached to me, or I have this thing in my house or whatever, I now look at that as I have 2 clients. I have you and I have that client, and I'm working for that one to move on. I'm just not about cutting them loose from you and letting them wander out there and pick up with somebody else.
Right. And so I wonder, it would be interesting to find out what do we do with a sudden death. There's so many different energies going on at that time. Plane crashes, 9/11, people can say, I just felt something. People with that have lost a loved one will report, boy, I could feel something in my heart, and I knew that my loved one had died.
I was just listening to Cecily Tyson. She was doing a master class on the Oprah show. Yeah. And she was talking about how when she was a baby that she had a relative tell her mom was pushing her in a baby buggy,
They called them prams back then.
I almost said pram, and then I went baby buggy.
Yep.
And this person came that she knew, stopped her on the street and said, oh, you need to take care of this child. She's special. She knows things.
So Cecily was blessed.
Cecily was blessed, and she has a gift. And so then Cecily was talking about later in life, she had either a vision or a dream, I can't remember which one she said, where she was, I think it was a dream, where she walked out of her, in the dream, she walked out of her apartment, and she found herself falling into the street, and she put her hand out like this, and she got chills. And so she said, it's been my feeling my whole life that when that happens, somebody's trying to talk to me. It wasn't a very short period of time. Her sister called and said, how are you doing? And her sister said, I'm not doing very well. Our mom passed away. Her mom passed away, got dressed, went out of the house. I don't know if she had a heart attack or whatever, but she died falling into the street with her hand out.
So that was very obviously a huge connection between Miss Tyson and her mom.
Right.
And that, I didn't have that profound of an experience, but I got the phone call from my father that my mother had died, and he called us according to birth order, so I was the last one called. And I did, it was maybe an hour after that where I felt my mom come and just say goodbye, and then she moved on.
And I believe that for everybody that has a sudden death experience, I believe that can happen. And again, we're back to what is their belief system. How has their belief system supported them in moving on?
Well, but the doctor said the belief system didn't matter. He said that was interesting. He had talked to Hindus, he had talked to Buddhists, he had talked to Christians, he had talked to earth-based, all different religions.
But these people came back.
Right.
Because we haven't anybody that's really died come back and say, hey guys,
but on his site, he does say that these people said they could see themselves coming back through the tunnel, and then when they came out as babies. So that was one of the interviews. So some woman actually re-experienced her birth, and so apparently it's the same tunnel that we cross, when we die, that we cross to come
and
and be
understand thoughts become things, so perception is reality.
Right.
So within our framework, how does that work?
Right, right. But what he had reported again from these people that had come back, that they had learned their lessons, that they were healing on the other side while they were there, and yet the sudden death thing can obviously send shockwaves to the whole family, because the process of grieving for some people starts almost immediately. For others it gets delayed, depending upon circumstances. And a lot of times with things like plane crashes, there's investigations and all of that. I would think that those types of investigations might actually keep some of those people earthbound.
It makes you wonder, and then who knows, because they could still see themselves as still flying through the air. They're still talking to passengers.
Sure.
I mean, when you get on the other side of reality, the rules don't apply. The rules that we have here.
We have so many rules.
Well, I know. We do. We do. Yeah.
So many.
Yeah. And as you know, I'm really kind of an out of the
You're
box
not,
girl. I'm
right.
not
There's
really,
no rules in your box.
Well, there is. Do no harm.
Right. Right.
And know your exits, and
Yeah.
have
Have a back door.
Have a back door, and the prime directive. I like the prime directive.
Right.
Don't mess with anybody else's evolution.
Right.
So,
But
that's about it.
Unless they're brought to you for you to heal, then you can mess with their evolution.
And then it's pretty obvious.
Right.
What happens? Yeah.
Right. And also in your sessions, though, it is kind of you have a framework, but you do, and you've got certain steps.
But it's different every time.
It is different. I've
Very
been to it.
different.
I've assisted enough to know that it's different every time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
it
it's-
is. And the same note. There's no two readings that are the same.
Mm-mm. No, it's totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the grief thing.
Oh.
Yeah. I thought that was perfect today, that I had somebody sent me, and I reposted it on my timeline, so it should show up anybody that's on my Facebook page. This is, what do you do for people, especially people that have suddenly passed, right? So, she saw a poem that inspired her to tackle the question, what do we say to someone suffering a loss? Here's what you don't say, and it kind of starts that way.
Good.
Don't say they're in a better place. Please don't even start. Don't say that it was just their time when it's breaking my heart. Don't tell me many die young or that their life was long. Don't say that there's a reason or they're back where they belong. Don't say that God needed them more or I know just how you feel. Don't give me any reasons when you're not at the wheel. Don't tell me I'll get over it or any other thesis. All I know right here and now, my heart's shattered to pieces. You don't need to say a thing. There is nothing you can do. Just knowing that you're here for me when I've most needed you.
And that is completely in line with.
It was written by Tony Kane.
That's completely in line with the training that people get to become a TIP volunteer, trauma intervention program. And one of the things they say not to say there is, oh, I completely understand how you feel. Because the range of emotion when a survivor is dealing with a sudden death, even a natural death, the range of emotion can be anywhere from completely shut down, I don't want to talk about it, get out of here, to hysterical. And guess what? Every one of those emotions is normal.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
is.
okay to experience. And things are going to happen in their own time. Everybody grieves differently. I feel that men grieve very differently from women. And I think one of these things that's really important in grieving is to show children how to grieve.
Yeah, and by not allowing your children to watch your emotions, because you and I both have kids.
Right.
Nothing I ever told them really stuck. But what I did when I thought when they weren't looking, boy, did that stick like crazy.
Well, and my kids, because the way I was raised with death at the dinner table a lot, I understand why my parents did that.
Okay, now wait a minute.
My father was a probate attorney. He was a probate attorney. We were raised Catholic, so a lot of talk was, this is death. It was all that stuff. So it was normal dinner.
Yeah, but the Irish really have this thing about it.
We do, man. It's just a big party.
You guys party on.
We do party. But when my father-in-law was in the process of dying, we went down every weekend to spend time with him and give my kids and their father the maximum amount of time we could before he was going to die. And that was kind of my thought pattern. And my kids did see a dead body. They did, they did see their grandfather. And I think actually it was a good experience for them, because we were able to talk about what's going on with Grandpa. I wasn't there right when he died, but his daughter said that right before he died, he said his room was filled with angels. This came out of his mouth. And that he could see Jesus and Mary, and he could see his mother, and his daughter, who's also an intuitive, she felt the vibration in the room shift. And then he died. And so for him, it was a very peaceful death. And I think that's really helped my kids deal with death.
But look at all the support that you had. Look at all the support you were giving, that you included everybody.
Yeah.
Now, my ex-husband, who has since passed on, when he was a very young boy, he was 7 when his father passed.
That's really traumatic.
That's very traumatic, especially, I think, to every child.
Yeah.
But to boys, when their dad passes, because there's too many studies that say the same-sex parent has the most effect on somebody's emotional growth, right?
Yes.
So he didn't know his father had a benign brain tumor, and I believe they were of the Christian Science faith, or his father was involved in that. So nothing was done. It was operable, but because nothing was done.
Right, because they believe in faith healing.
Right, which is not to say that was wrong. It's just saying what the circumstance was. So finally, his mother, my ex-husband's mother, said, "This is enough of this." She was obviously, I'll tell you, she wasn't a Christian Science person. She took his dad on a plane and took him. So the last time he saw his father, he was getting on a plane going to San Diego, and they took him, because they lived in Oregon where there weren't any hospitals, for this particular surgery that he needed. He died on the table. So the next time my ex-husband saw his father, it was when they had him in the mortuary.
So he was afraid to fly for a while, I bet.
Well, no, it wasn't that so much, but what really got him was, being the people that they made him kiss his father.
See,
and then they didn't talk about it. Yeah. So there wasn't a whole lot of support there. So as long as I knew him, he had a really tough time viewing the body. He didn't want to, as a 7-year-old.
And that's something else too, is when that happens, it's a lot of times up to the coroner and if law enforcement, the officials that are there, if they're going to allow someone to see a body before it gets taken out of the home or wherever, and it can be very, very traumatic.
Now, the Irish had this thing, right? Didn't you guys have the body eaters?
The body eater? God.
Yeah, I know. No, yeah, that's probably it right there.
See, it's
but I mean, if you go way back, there are some people that literally would sit with food and eat it off their body. There was something about that.
Oh, see, I wasn't. That's not mine. No, we had whiskey.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of whiskey. Yeah, we
Irish
got that.
whiskey.
But I mean, the reason I bring that up to show us how dramatic all the rituals are.
Yeah.
And like we said last week, these days, part of our Western culture is we've unless you're involved in a serious faith situation, you're lucky if you get a potluck and an urn and a jar to sit in. Because of the cost is so high.
And my parents talked a lot about wakes growing up, because
you had them all the time.
Right.
So.
but it was again a way of preparing us. I think my dad was preparing us. Yes, death is not imminent, but you have to look at it and not fear it. And his whole thing was doing the wills and stuff to get people ready for that, which is not a happy business.
No, and there doesn't seem to be a happy medium, because think about
I'm a happy medium.
Okay. Jeez. Did I set that up? I set that up, didn't I? But I'm pumped. Nice. You're on it today. Woohoo. And it totally derailed me. That train just fell right off the track.
Well,
the dramatic differences, in the old countries, some of them would prepare the body and people would sit in the room with them.
Yes.
I mean, but our Western culture, if you don't belong to a religion, if you don't have a faith, it's kind of up to the mortuary. And so what do you do with people that have died suddenly in a plane crash where there's no bodies?
Well,
I have to do something to
thankfully,
close that door.
I never had to deal with that, but you're right. There has to be some kind of memorial service, or you obviously can't do a viewing. But just recently in my family, my aunt was cremated, and so we had a memorial service. So I think that kind of closure doing that process really helps. I mean, a memorial service and a funeral is as much for the survivors as it's
also for those souls that have passed.
Yep.
Because if we have someone who doesn't know that they're passed and they're they're coming around the people that they loved, it's important for them to go, whoa, what is this all about?
Right, exactly.
So that can happen as well.
Yes.
So I was recently at a Jewish funeral. In fact, a woman that I was, a woman that I was with last night at this dinner that we had, we keep popping up together at different places, which is really interesting.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, no kidding. And actually, the dinner was called 6 Degrees of Separation. Happened,
Make
by
it
the way.
5.5 now.
Not 5.5, yeah. But she, we were glad to see each other because I didn't, other than my client whose mother had passed away, we didn't know anybody there. And so this woman looked at me, and at one point when they're talking and they're doing the Jewish thing, and I'm kind of sitting there, she leaned over and she goes, I bet this is really hard on you. And I'm sitting there looking around, and I've just felt like I've had people tapping me on the shoulder. Somebody's, every few seconds it felt like somebody's going, hello, can you take me? Can I, is this the way home? Can I, because they're drawn to light.
Yeah.
Right? So any kind of light worker is going to attract them.
Right.
So I kind of looked at her and I said, not so much.
I brought a whole parcel of people.
Yeah. But I appreciated it because part of what they did is they had a shovel full or a box full of dirt there, which had been blessed or something had happened with it, and it's not in my framework. But I thought I want to feel this. I want to see what's going on, and so to go up, there was something very sacred about taking this and throwing it on inside that ritual, even though it was not part of mine.
Right. Right. And, some of this stuff, particularly the Jewish stuff, but a lot of it goes back to ancient Egypt. They built the pyramids that house the tombs, and they buried them with protective oils and built statues.
But you don't have that on a plane crash. So now we're back to the plane crash.
Right.
So what do you do?
So I would think that they would have to see some kind of comfort in whatever their belief system is.
Even if it's just for the people they've left behind.
Yeah.
Because they're not feeling any pain anymore.
Right.
Unless they don't believe.
Right. So what do you tell an atheist? What do you tell someone that doesn't have a belief system?
Well, interestingly enough, what we can do is tell them, in my belief system, you will have friends and family that have gone before you. You may see them. And one of my teachers shared an experience where that is exactly with someone that she worked with. I don't remember. It might have even been a family member. And she said, and it was a long process. This was a long process, okay, like your father.
Yes.
Right. And so she said, well, when you, at the very least, and she wasn't going to be into all the shamanic healing, and it wasn't going to be whatever. And so he was told, well, when you get ready to go, you will see friends and family. And towards the last few moments, he sent a message to her just before he died through someone that was in the room that said, tell her she was right.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think has been consistent is people talk about going to the light, but I think you hear a lot about angels. And one of the things I love about angels is they are non-denominational. They are in every thought pattern.
Everything. Everybody can connect to angels.
Yeah, and they are messengers. So I find that you can tell people, and maybe not an atheist, but you can tell people, there's going to be angels there. Because there are angels there that come. There are specific angels, and then there are family members, and, all that come. In
my work, they're called psychopomp beings, which soul conductors to the light, And so they're around, and they will be there. Until they're ready to go, truly move on to the next step.
And I forget, Doreen Virtue has done a lot of work with the archangels, and there is an archangel. I think it's Zedekiel. I'm not sure.
Spell that one.
Zadkiel. I think there might be a nun from Sacred Heart rolling over in her ground right now.
I don't know.
But I think there's an actual angel of grieving. An archangel of grieving that actually comes, and it's a very quiet archangel. Some of them can be chatty, like Archangel Michael. But this angel, and this is from what...
He's chatty with you?
Well, you know what? This is basically what I've been reading through Doreen Virtue.
Okay.
So, but according to Doreen Virtue, his presence is very quiet. and it's just about, as we would say, holding the space, or putting that calm energy there so that the family can move through the grieving process.
Right. Because and again, like we said last week, it's got to have its time. It's got to take what it takes.
And that's one of the other do not tell people when they're grieving. Oh, it'll be better tomorrow. Yeah, don't say that. Or,
next year. Give it a year.
It's been long enough. You need to stop grieving now. I've heard people say that.
I've actually heard people that are grieving say, I'm embarrassed.
Yes.
Because I should be farther along than this.
Which is them judging their own selves.
Right.
And there are great support groups out there. And I think people should reach out and get that help if they need it. That way they know there's somebody else that's feeling
this way. If they choose to. When you tell somebody what they should do, of course, my favorite line is, let's just erase should.
Yeah, I that was not a good word for me to use.
Yeah. But to give them any kind of expectation, especially in the case like we were talking with people that have suddenly here today, gone in the next moment, is to tell them that things need to happen in a certain pattern because they are feeling so out of control anyway. Mm-hmm. Why give them something where they now have some kind of
It's very different because the feelings from a sudden death, a violent death like a plane crash, in the survivors, it can bring up a lot of rage, especially
which needs to be felt.
Exactly,
if it can be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would not advocate to suppress that. Now, I'm not going to say go out and kill somebody, but absolutely it needs to be expressed. It can be written in a journal. It can be, but it needs to be expressed. And then if it is a crime or something like this, the need for revenge, and especially when it is something like this, in the plane crash in the Ukraine, where it's two countries just going at it, what do you do? You're not going to get mad at the Russian government. You're not going to get mad at the Ukrainian, or you might get mad at both of them and think they're both idiotic countries for doing what they're doing.
Right.
And you could go that range, and all of it is okay. Yeah. Feeling all that.
Because we do need to feel it.
Right.
But when it's time, some people feel numb.
Mm-hmm. That's also very normal. They suppress the feelings.
Like a bandage.
Yes.
Numbness can be a bandage.
Yep.
The problem is when we start to take it off and go, oh, not today.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier. Some people don't want to feel it right away. And so they suppress it, or they're not comfortable expressing emotions to anybody but family. They may not want to talk to their priest, rabbi, spiritual teacher, whatever. And they may not want to go to a support group because they're thinking, I don't need support. I don't want it. And which my dad did not go to support groups. Wasn't his thing.
No, my ex-husband would never have gone.
Yeah. No, they were because they weren't of that generation.
No. Well, they wasn't of that belief.
Okay. And neither was my dad. He didn't feel like he needed support through outside support after my mom died.
Right.
So there are people that feel they don't need it. There are others that feel that they do. Both ways are correct.
I don't know this. That's why I was asking you earlier in the week if there are any situations out there where the belief system, the religion, the spiritual, whatever the ritual is, if there's any out there that support contacting that soul that has crossed right away. Especially in a sudden death thing. What would you think? And I
meant to research that and I didn't. I would think probably the Hindu religion.
I don't know.
Would support
I don't know that much about it.
And maybe even the Native Americans. I don't know. You know more about the shamanic world than I do.
I don't know, because the shamanism is so different because we believe everything has spirit and it's all connected.
Right.
And so to me, it doesn't matter if I'm working with a spirit on this side in a body or I'm working on the other side with spirit not in the body.
Right. And they will talk about contacting their ancestors.
Right.
And stuff like that. I know in the Catholic religion it's not really talked about, and it's not it's very suppressed.
Some of the shamanic cultures would wait 3 days.
Yes.
There was a common thing in a lot of the cultures where they would wait 3 days before anything happened, or they would, and in case of soul retrieval, which I do a lot of, they would automatically wait 3 days after a traumatic incident. But the other thing is that shamanically, we typically, if someone has suddenly passed, we don't try and make connection with them because there's this period afterwards. I don't care if it's sudden, long-term whatever, where that process that the guy talked about in the article, where they're going over that part of their life.
And,
what am I doing?
And I know,
how did I do? What did I,
people have come to me within a month of a deceased loved one, and sometimes they can come through and sometimes they can't. And that's what I tell them. And that's why then I ask the angels to say, give me an update.
What I think is interesting is, and I'll bet she's busy, is the Long Island medium.
Yeah.
I'll bet she's real busy right now, not besides the radio show, but people especially, because there's this need, to make connection. Is that personal?
Well, that's how John Edwards got started with his show Crossing Over.
Yeah.
Was making connections. I think it's hugely important, but there are souls or spirits, however you want to call them, that will not talk to you. Before I really developed my abilities, I could not bring my grandmother through for the life of me. For any psychic I went to. My French grandmother would not come through, period.
Well, see, I'm jealous right now, because I never tried to bring them through. They just showed up.
But I was very close to her.
Uh-huh.
And before she died, she wouldn't speak any English. French was her second language. And I think I mentioned this before. And I did speak a little bit of French to her before she died, and she got all animated because she understood it. So that English was not what she was speaking in the last few weeks of her life.
Okay.
So, but she's not come through. She just won't. And I don't remember her being that stubborn.
Now, there is something, and I had somebody ask me this week, how can you tell the difference if someone's coming to you, like a relative, how can you tell if they're moved on or if they're attached?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's a great question. And what I have found is that in situations where I have helped a loved one move on to the light, they still can make contact with you, but the emotional attachment, it's not sticky.
Yes.
There's no, it's nothing but loving support. It's nothing, and understand that since we're talking about energy, really, the core of everything is we're all energy. So there's this theory out there, and I say theory, that's a proven hypothesis, so I don't know if it's whatever, but there's a thought that it's parts of your soul that may be coming back and making connection with the family.
That's an interesting theory.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. I know that we were talking about thought patterns and belief systems. When somebody's Jewish dies, they have to get a rabbi to watch the body.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know the 24-hour rule, they have to be in the ground in 24 hours.
Or watched by a rabbi. And there are extenuating circumstances if somebody is killed, like in a plane crash, or they're killed in one state, in one country, and they have to travel to another.
Yeah, how do they do that? Because I heard a coroner speaking about the plane crashes a couple of weeks ago, and they said this is going to be a long process. It's going to take 3-4 months.
And that's, I think, when the Jewish religion will allow for some kind of exception to that. But
I don't know.
But I'm not Jewish, and maybe somebody out there that knows the answer to that question. We'd welcome your input on that. The number is 702.
Everybody's really quiet. We either scared them all away.
Well, it's interesting, but the other thing let me give the number, 702-609-7626. The other thing, though, you're asking about an attachment, and you and I have seen this, chronic pain.
Can be a sign. Can
be a sign that there's an attachment when it wasn't there before, and I know I've pulled stuff out of people that, later on that was a spirit, And then
it's just all energy.
Right.
Really.
And then their neck pain is gone, or their shoulder pain is gone, or their whatever. But yeah, they can definitely attach. If it's chronic pain and the medical community has done everything that they can do, see an alternative healer.
Well, it's not going to hurt anything.
Right. Right, exactly.
Well, in some cases, it's not,
but
for the most part, yeah. And I preface that because I have seen people that have done rituals that they read it in a book or they didn't, that's sometimes you can open the door to something more than you wanted. But
take the classes.
Take the classes or make a connection with your spirit, a divine spirit.
Yes.
And do that.
Yes.
And understand, have a really strong connection with that so that you have some kind of guidance somehow.
Yeah.
This is not called read a book and I'm going to cross somebody over today.
Exactly.
It doesn't work like that.
And that's how I got into the pranic healing. Was I read the book, and that's why I asked, well, can I just go out and do this? And they said, no, you have to take the classes.
And it's not about the money.
No. It's about the knowledge that is given at class. There's just enough of it kept out of the book.
Well, that's clever.
Sure. There's enough of it kept out of the book, because you're getting good information.
Right.
And there's enough of it kept out of the book that you want to take the classes. And then you have the book to go back and say, okay, this makes more sense to me now.
Well, and I also had someone this week that told me that they had been reading a book and they absolutely knew they had read the book before. And all of a sudden, there were whole sections of it that they swear to God they'd never read, but they knew they had read it. So portions of the books come out and make sense as you're doing that.
Yes, that's true.
I did that a lot when I was studying with Gary Zukav.
Mm-hmm.
I could read his book, Seed of the Soul, and you could tell I'd read it because I'd highlighted some things,
Right.
Really? How come that? Did they just put this bare paragraph in here that has no highlighting in it? Because I don't remember reading it. Did my brain check out?
Or maybe it just wasn't information that you needed at the time.
It wasn't time.
Right. And it is interesting, and I don't want to digress too much, about how that information will come to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That healer will appear, the teacher will appear.
Just when you need it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's happened in both of our lives. A lot.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, though, to see some people, especially at a memorial service, they'll reminisce and they will say things. Well, they are in a better place now. But that can cause a second injury.
And the thing is I think on that point is to what is your intention? Is there some part of me, if I want to say that I question myself, I really want to just
comfort.
I want to fix this person so I'll feel better.
Right, and it's not about that.
Yeah,
that's called being the professor and trying to advise somebody. But it's also about helping people to go through the grieving process. And so the things to do, get them a gift card for food. Get them. You've got this.
I've got that. There was some points on that.
Yeah, take care of them. Their bodies are going to change. They may not sleep as well. They may get up at 2:00 in the morning. You never know.
More so than words, a constant stream of small touches that don't require any reciprocation is the most appreciated and restorative encouragement you can provide. Here are a few ideas. Walk around the block holding hands, allowing the feeling of connection and warmth. Take him or her for a relaxing massage and be there to drive him or her home so they can prolong the relaxation, cook a favorite meal, serve it and clean up. Listen to what they have to say and be sympathetic without trying to fix it.
Right, and that was...
No words of wisdom. No. Because we don't know what they're going through.
And because sometimes it's just your presence can be powerful enough, and it is about acknowledging their emotions. Right. And if they say something to you like, am I being weird or is this crazy? No, you're being normal. Even if you don't believe it, say it anyway. And with our family, it was a matter of we really don't like to send flowers. We would rather send a plant or we send a donation. But our thing about sending a plant is that it's giving that life energy back.
Yep.
So
this, if anybody wants to look it up, it's Rachel. Oh, I got to spell this one. Kodanaz. Her last name is Kodanaz, and she wrote a book called, I'm getting there, it's down here, Living with Loss One Day at a Time. So if any of you out there have a situation where somebody could use some support, you might pick this up.
And there's a lot of really good tips out there. Selfgrowth.com has a whole section dedicated to the steps of grieving, but I think that take a meal to them. Again, that was something that was done in my culture.
And ask them, what can I do?
Yeah.
How can I help? And how can I help you? And if they say there's nothing, give them your phone number. Mm-hmm. And even just that, maybe they can't deal with it at that time. Maybe they can later on.
And again, for us, it was about keeping the back household stuff going. When my father-in-law finally did go, it was about me watching the kids, doing the shopping, cooking the meals, so that the family could do what they needed to do. My role was to do the house stuff and stay in the background as much as I could. And that was something that allowed their family to do what needed to get done. So there's that kind of thing. There's something called a source of strength. And that can be, this works for any religion. You can find out what is in somebody's house that might give them a source of strength. You've got shamanic stones. I've got a cross and a Bible. There's some people may have the Star of David. Or it could be a picture. It could be a song that a person may say, you know, I really like this song, and it may be completely inappropriate, but it's not your place to sit there and say this is inappropriate. Because we had, I think I've mentioned this before, we had that at my dad's funeral. But it's you look at something, they will give you a clue as to what their source of strength is. It could be a pet, it could be a blanket, it could be anything, and you get that source of strength for them.
Right.
And you use that as a comfort tool.
I think this is a great place to just leave this now.
Oh, is it that time already?
It's getting there.
We've got 3 minutes.
George is going to stick some fingers in the air.
He
here,
is.
You know, pretty quick.
He is.
Let's talk about what's happening at Soul Sundays at the Meadows. You just did your first one.
So I did my first Soul Sunday at the Meadows.
Which is a retirement community here in town.
Yes.
And it's 2900 South Valley View.
We need to give a shout out to everybody out there. I did promote the show.
Oh, cool.
So it was great. I walked in and I asked everybody how many people had meditated. I had about 10 people. Everybody raised their hand.
Right.
So I had gone in with this mindset of doing a really easy meditation and introducing it. It was so awesome to walk into a room of experienced meditators.
Yeah, it's cool.
So I automatically went into a difficult meditation.
And this is by donation.
Yes,
there
by
isn't a set
donation.
charge. That's by donation. This is a good
Yep.
entry point for people. Yeah, everybody's welcome.
Yes, everybody's welcome.
Right.
And so if you're in the Las Vegas or Clark County area, this is a great thing to do. It rotates every Sunday, so it's a different practitioner
Right.
every Sunday.
So this Sunday is Anna Dabrowski, who's
Right.
a Reiki master, and she's going to do a Reiki healing
And some-
circle
Yep.
and some chakra clearing.
I think
believe.
so. And then I did the energy work afterwards. I
Right.
thought I was going to do angel card readings. I wound up doing. George just held up his hand. So
Hi, George.
Hey, George. So I did the energy work afterwards,
Right.
and so people were able to feel a difference.
Right.
So that was a great thing for me to experience.
So this Sunday is, and it's from 2 to 4.
Yeah, 2 to 4.
2 to
And you're
4.
this Sunday? No, Anna's this Sunday.
Anna's this Sunday,
Right.
and then Christina Long, who's
Okay.
a channel.
She's awesome.
She is awesome.
Yes.
She's going to talk about channeling,
Yeah.
basically, and channeling guides, and
And
she's
it-
going to do some channeling, a channeling circle.
And
So
then,
our
yeah.
own Las Vegas medium,
Right?
you know, and I know there's probably
plenty
other
of
mediums
them.
out there go, wait a minute, I am too,
Yeah.
but this is yours and mine.
right,
right,
right.
yeah, okay. And then the weekend after, I'm doing a dream workshop with a crystal bowl meditation and dreams from the standpoint of shamanic healing,
Right.
which is different. This is about journeying. You can bring your favorite dream or a dream that's reoccurring or one that you remember, and I actually take them to their inner garden to speak.
Good. We'll
a
have to
guiding
talk
spirit.
about my one lately.
Oh, I don't want to hear about
And then, well, you already did. You're the one I
Oh,
called.
there you go.
So, and then also, not tonight because you and I are probably heading out afterwards, but Thursday you're coming over to
Radcliffe.
U.S. Vets Radcliffe.
Right.
This meditation is open to all active military and veterans. It's 10 a.m. at the Radcliffe House. It's a drum circle.
Right.
It's a lot of fun. The guys have requested you to come out again.
I was excited to hear they were disappointed when I didn't show
they
up
were. And
last
then-
week.
Right. Those are the guys at the main site, which next Tuesday after the show, you and I are going to be doing a drum circle.
A
You
drum
lead
circle.
it. I show up. I just show
She
up.
shows
and play.
up, and
I have a
we
ball.
do a little meditation in the middle, and
Yep.
then we just drum.
We
It's
do.
about
It
about
is.
drumming and raising the
So
roof.
this one is also next Tuesday night at the U.S. Vets main site on
Right.
Las Vegas Boulevard and Bonanza.
Right.
That's at 8 p.m. and that is open to active military and veterans if you can get away.
Right.
It's just a ton of fun. The guys at U.S. Vets are definitely looking forward to having you come back.
We party.
They asked about you this morning.
Okay.
And some those of you that have talked to me about drum circles here in Las Vegas and have not come to one, this is your chance.
Yeah, it's good.
This
There's
is a lot of
but
fun.
We rock.
You do, as she does.
rock.
She sings. Some of the guys sing. Some get up and dance.
Yeah, it's
We
pretty
have
cool.
a good time. The
It's
cowbell
pretty cool.
gets played.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. This Sunday I'm going to be coming Sunday. I'm at Well of the Moon.
Oh, okay.
At 4 o'clock.
Okay. Good. to know.
And I'm going. I don't know if I've even put it out there yet. So this might be the first one.
Okay, I haven't received a text on
Yeah,
this yet.
probably. So, do you believe how hard it is with all the social media?
Yes,
to
I do.
get it up and out there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So this Sunday at Well of the Moon, which is at
Sahara Indicator.
Sahara and Decatur, I was going to give them the address, but it's right next to KM Shoes.
Yes.
At 4 o'clock for 2 hours. And I probably will do something about dreams there as well.
Okay.
So if people can't make it the other Sunday, there's another one. But
Awesome.
I never know what I'm going to do
And-
until I get there sometimes.
And then don't forget to like our Facebook page.
Right.
Right. Synchronicity and Your Life. I have a private, or not private, but I have a personal page, Jane McGuire. You can check me out. Elena Risto has one. You have a couple of websites.
ShamanicsSong.com
Yep.
is one, and ElenaRistoHealer.com since I do sound healing. So we kind of just covered it all.
We did. And so if you're interested in a pranic healing session, you can reach me at 702-204-7750 or at pranicjane59@gmail.com.
Yep.
And that can be done distantly, too.
Yep. And I'm at info@shamanicsong.com or info@ElenaRistoHealer.com. And with that...
You've got some meetups, though, too.
I do. So if you're on meetup.com, join Meetup. Go to Shamanic Song.
Yep.
Have a great week, and we'll be back next week.
Yep.
We've had some interesting conversation about what we might talk about.
We're going out to Here I Am, sung by Elena Risto.
Have a great week. See you later.
Here I am, standing at the door, looking back at life as it's been before. Holding on to things that might have been, knowing that this day will never come again.